Hello to all of you from Winnie and I. We are here today to do a big unhaul. So it has been over 3 years since I did my KonMari with me thing. I don't know if you guys remember that. The OG Getting Hooked with It subscribers would remember. I essentially went shelf by shelf. I think there were 26 videos where I went shelf by shelf and I dwindled down my books, but I did it very methodically. I had to get rid of a certain amount and I ended up with a limbo shelf and it was a whole thing. Very, very, very involved. I don't think I have the energy to do that anymore, considering I have a little baby now. She's not a baby anymore, she's 3, but all that to say, I realize that it's been a long time since I've gone shelf by shelf like that and dwindled it down. And I've been watching Angie. I'm going to link her channel in the description box below. I adore Angie so much. And she's been doing this, methodically going like genre by genre and just getting rid of a ton of books. And I've been loving watching those videos. So I thought, you know what? She has inspired me. And it's about time that I do this. So here is my plan. I'm going to be ruthless in the same way that I was before, but I'm not going to have like set numbers of things that I need to get rid of. I'm also not going to do like all of my historical fiction books at one time, or all of my thrillers at one time, because I honestly I think I have over 1,000 books. So I just don't think it would be humanly possible to do it that way. I currently have sitting beside me one shelf's worth of books. I'm hoping that in this video, maybe we can get through 2 shelves, but we'll see. They're historical fiction books. My plan is the first go around, it's going to be first impressions. When I pick up the book, first impressions. Am I super excited to read this book? Or do I just feel meh about it? Or do I just want to get rid of it? Whew, let's see. And then after I've gone through with the meh books, I will like be more deliberate and like keep some, lose some, we'll see. Are you ready? We're starting with historical fiction. I feel like that was a really long introduction for an unhaul. Like, why am I having so much like trepidation or something? I don't know. The first one is People of the Book by Geraldine Brooks. I started reading one other book by her. I didn't like it. It was on audio, but I didn't like it. So I have like no desire to read this. So it's gonna go. Bye-bye. Okay, next up is The Tattooist of Auschwitz. I don't have like a great desire to read it, but I also don't not want to read it. So I'm going to put that in the maybe pile. Oh, Winnie. Winnie is here with me. And you can see her little paws. She's like ridiculous. The Blind Assassin. Wait, is this? Oh yes, I absolutely want to read this. This is like just after the First World War. I definitely want to read this. Winnie, stop eating the Sherpa rug. House of Glass is next. Now, I should mention, I've got these little tabs up top. Those are to suggest like what season they belong to. So this is, I think this is actually summer now. House of Glass, I really want to read. It's a bit of a gothic story involving a garden, and I am here for it. So I really want to read this. The Wildling Sisters by Eve Chase. I've read one Eve Chase before, felt okay about it, but I'm not like overly excited about this one, so it's going in the maybe pile. The Rebel Wife. I have no desire to read this anymore. There was a period of time that I thought I wanted to read this, and it's not now, so I'm gonna get rid of that. The Light Between Oceans is one of my all-time favorite books. I will never get rid of this. This will always be on my shelves. Staying. A White Chrysanthemum, I believe, is about divers during World War II. I'm kind of curious about it. I'm not sure. I'm going to put it in the maybe pile. Tangerine. This is another book that I absolutely loved. It is so gripping. It is historical fiction that like meets mystery. the tension in here, the atmosphere. I felt like I was in Tangier. I will keep this on my shelves forever. Feeding the Ghosts is an incredibly wonderful book about Black history, about a slave ship and an uprising. It is the hardest book I've ever read. I don't want to reread this because it is that difficult to read. It's absolutely wonderful though. I've kept it on my shelves since I read it when I was 17, oh no, maybe probably 18. I have mixed feelings about this, so I'm going to put it in the maybe pile just because it's very, very hard to read. So it's going in the maybe pile. We'll see. My name is Resolute. I don't know why I don't want to read this, but I just don't. I do want to read These Is My Words by Nancy Turner, but I just have no real desire to read this. So it's going to go in the goodbye pile. Same with Swans of Fifth Avenue. I actually don't know why I picked this up because I'm not really interested in Truman Capote and his friends, his like socialite friends. I'm not overly interested in that subject matter, so not sure how this got on my shelves, but it's gonna go. The Silent Companion. I really did enjoy this book. I could see myself revisiting it. It's about a woman who goes to stay at the house that she and her husband were supposed to live. They got married and he soon after died. And when she moves in, there are these strange figures like dolls that seem to follow her around and move around the house in a super creepy way. Oh my word. I really thought it was creepy, so I'm going to keep this. Okay, we're like halfway through this shelf. Let's keep going. Girl in the Blue Coat. I barely remember what this is about. There's one out of two Monica Hess books I have that I do want to read. I just can't remember which one. I'm going to put it in the maybe pile. Oh my word. The Book Thief. Again, another book I will keep forever. Such a beautiful story. World War II, about following a little girl living in Germany with foster parents, essentially, who don't agree with the regime and trying to survive and also trying to have a childhood in the midst of it. Oh my God, I'm keeping it. You know that I've had a struggle with Kristen Hanna in the past. I'm going to put this on the maybe pile. One of my best friends said this is her favorite Kristen Hanna, and it is a World War II story. Maybe a good Christmassy story? Probably not. Probably it's dark and disturbing. So, but I think I'm going to put it on the maybe pile. I'm like leaning towards keeping that. Who am I? Brooklyn. I want to keep this. I want to read this. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. It's about an Irish girl who ends up moving to America, to Brooklyn, and her adjustment. And I love the movie. I'm hoping that I'll love the book just as much. Peony in Love by Lisa C. I have not read a Lisa C book that I've liked yet. I've only read one, so that's not saying much. But I just don't think I'm super excited about this story, so I'm going to say goodbye to it. The Heart's Invisible Furies. I'm going to keep this. 1000%. I'm keeping it. Such a beautiful story about a gay man growing up in the 50s in Ireland and feeling like he can't be himself, and you follow him throughout his life. You will root for this character. You will hate this character at moments because you're just like, stop doing things that hurt people. But it means a lot to me. So I'm keeping this. The War Outside. See, this is the other Monica Hess. I don't know which one I'm going to keep or if I'm going to keep any of them. So I'm going to put this in the maybe pile. Transcription was so interesting by Kate Atkinson, about a woman who wants to become a spy and get into that kind of line of work during World War II. And she does enter that occupation, but it's not what she thought it was going to be. It is funny. It's tense. There's a scene with a person here that was just like, oh my goodness, what is going to happen? I just loved it. I found it very amusing. So I'm going to keep that one. Here's one that I haven't read, but I'm super curious about. The Undertaking. It follows two German citizens who get married and who are kind of at odds with one another. And I think they are within the Hitler regime. And I just think it's fascinating. And it's been on multiple TBRs. And it will be on more TBRs in the future because I just think it's interesting. So I'm going to keep this one. I really want to keep the Fair Fight. I just think this is cool about, I think, boxing, basically. 18th century street fighters. But they're women. Like, yes, I need to know about this. I think she's written a couple of books, Anna Freeman, that have had a lot of like good reviews and stuff. So I want to keep this for sure. Oh, this next one, Little. I love the concept of this. In some ways, it follows Madame. It follows like a wax museum and a little girl who somehow works for it or gets involved in it. I just don't think this is going to be a me book, so I'm going to get rid of it, even though I love this cover so much. The Cat's Table by Michael Ondaatje. I'm really not sure if I'm going to like it or not. It's about kids going across the ocean, I think during World War II, to stay safe, something along those lines. And we follow a little boy on that ship. I'm not sure. Lean towards keeping it, but I don't know. So I'm gonna put it on the maybe. The Dollhouse is also on the maybe because I don't even remember what this is about, but I still have not read Fiona Davis. I'm hoping I will like her, but I just don't know if I will. So there's that. And then last but not least is The Book of Longings by Sue Monk Kidd. I've loved her writing in the past. I've read The Invention of Wings. I've read something about bees, The Secret Life of Bees. Loved both of them. This is about Jesus. And I don't usually like that time period to read about. I don't know why. I just don't. I'm going to put it on the maybe pile. So we've done first impressions for that first shelf. Winnie, did you eat one of those things? Please stop doing that. We have a little stack of stuff I'm getting rid of, but there's still this pile of maybes. I think we should go through that, sort that out before we move on. Sound like a plan? Okay, so let's go through this maybe pile. First up is Feeding the Ghosts. I don't want to reread this. I like having it on my shelves because it was an important book to me at that time. Okay, Stress is High. Winnie just started eating a book. Does she understand what house she lives in? Like, absolutely not. Winnie, if you eat any more books, I'm going to be very mad. I'm going to let this one go. I don't want to reread this ever. It was traumatizing and I wasn't even experiencing it. So I can only imagine. So that's a no from me. I'm going to read the inside blurb about White Chrysanthemum and really see what I think. This sounds devastating. It follows these divers, but they're sister divers, and one of the sisters sacrifices herself to save her sister's life, and she becomes a comfort woman for Japan, which is very sad. And then they are trying to find each other after the war. I'm going to keep it. I'm very curious. The Tattooist of Auschwitz is next. I think I want to keep this just because I feel like it's a very light. It is an easy read. It's not a light read. I read one other book by Heather Morris. Super easy to read. Not the best writing I've ever read, but it's based on a true story. And so I think I would like to keep it. Okay. Will I keep The Wildling Sisters? Okay. I think I'm going to keep this one. It's got a blurb by Kate Morton. It's got a Kate Morton feeling about a mystery in the past and then someone like 50 years later going back to try to like solve that mystery and solve something in their personal life. So I think I'm going to keep this one. I've just decided to keep The Winter Garden. I want to try it out. I'm giving myself permission to like ditch it if I'm not liking it, but I'm going to keep this. You know, I think I'm going to keep Girl in the Blue Coat out of the two Monica Hess books. One of them follows an internment camp, and the other follows a girl in Amsterdam during the Second World War, and she's asked to help to keep a Jewish teenager who's been in hiding, help to keep them alive, essentially. I just think that storyline is more interesting to me, so I'm going to keep this one and say goodbye to the war outside. And that's that. The Cat's Table. Okay, it's Michael Ondaatje. Okay, and that is Canadian literature. I've tried to read one other book by him and had a hard time, but I just have a feeling I'm gonna like this. I do. I love stories of children during World War II and reading their perspective, because it must be so bizarre to be living in the midst of a war. So I'm gonna keep it. Okay, what in the world is The Dollhouse even about? Okay, so this is about like the underground in New York City, I think. There's glitz and glamour and all of that, but I just don't think that I'm gonna want it. So I'm gonna pass along The Dollhouse, and I definitely do want to read something by her, but I just don't want to start there, if that makes any sense. Okay, last but not least, The Book of Longings. I'm usually not interested in reading about Jesus. This is about Jesus's wife, which is interesting. But I feel like since I've loved her books time and time again, I think I'm just going to keep it, because I'm fairly sure that I'll like her writing again. I know that I like her writing, so I'm going to keep this. I've got a stack of UNHAULs. This is good. Okay, I'm going to go over, get the second shelf. Please stay tuned. Okay, round two, second shelf. That was very cathartic to me. That one shelf that we just did, it looks so good. I have space to add more books. Not that I should do that. Note to self, actually just read the books. April, just read the books, but you know, I won't do that. Okay, moving on. First impressions, Roots. I want to read it. It is enormous. This is terrifying to me. I'm going to put it on the maybe shelf. The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. I really did enjoy this. I don't need to keep this. I feel like most people have read this at this point. I do not need to keep this. It is not one of my all-time favorite books. I enjoyed it, but that's kind of as far as it goes. So I'm going to pass it along. Someone else will enjoy it. Next is The Lavender Garden by Lucinda Riley. I still have not read Lucinda Riley, so I know that she's got a bit of a Kate Morton vibe, which always works well for me. I'm going to put it on the maybe pile, because I would like to read her at some point in my life. Fatal Inheritance. Again, also I've never read Rachel Reese, and I'm kind of curious about this one. I think it's about a woman who's traveling and becomes incredibly endangered in the 1940s. Sounds pretty good. So I'm going to put it on the maybe pile. The Lifeboat. Lifeboat is a book that I read because of Harriet Rosie. Let me know if you guys used to follow Harriet. She doesn't have a channel anymore, but I really loved her. And it is about a ship that goes down, and it's about the people who survived and are in the lifeboat and their chats with one another. So interesting. I really enjoyed it, but I don't need to keep it on my shelves anymore. I'd like other people to read it, so I'm going to pass that along. Secrets of a Charmed Life by Susan Meissner. We read this for my little book club, my Patreon book club back in the day. I definitely enjoyed this book. It's World War II historical fiction about sisters who find themselves torn apart during World War II, and they're trying to find each other again. I liked it. It wasn't my favorite Susan Meissner, so I'm going to pass it along to somebody else who hopefully will enjoy. The Poisonwood Bible. I've had this on my shelves for a really long time, and I don't know why I'm hesitating to read it. I want to read it. I don't want to read it. I have mixed feelings, so it's going on the maybe pile. And the same thing is happening with East of Eden. It's a classic. Why haven't I read it? Probably because it's enormous. Going on the maybe pile. Beneath a Scarlet Sky is another book that, like, I was extremely excited to read this when I first heard about it. And then over time, I discovered that it had very mixed reviews and more people were thinking that it wasn't good than that it was good, which is slightly disturbing. I don't know what to do. I'm going to put it on the maybe pile. Once We Were Brothers, I'm absolutely keeping. It is about, it's after the war, I believe, and there is a gathering, and I think one of the people who's being honored at the gathering, or at least someone who goes to this gathering, was a Nazi and has kept this hidden his whole life until his brother, like half brother, I don't know, says, no, I know what you are and I'm gonna bring you down, essentially. That's what it sounds like. I want to keep this. I want to read this 100%. Fall of the Marigolds is another Susan Meissner that I haven't read, and I believe it follows the triangle shirtwaist fire. Yes. And it goes back and forwards in time. I love Susan Meissner. I definitely want to keep this one. I want to read all of her books. Oh yes, The Widows of Malabar Hill just sounds so fascinating. It's a mystery of 1920s India, and you don't really need to tell me more than that. I've heard she's a really great author, so I want to keep this and read it. Another Susan Meissner, A Bridge Across the Ocean, takes place on a ship, not a cruise ship, some sort of ship. Some people make it across the ocean and some do not. I need to know. It's dang. The Street by Anne Petrie. This is meant to be, well, essentially it was like a classic written in the 40s, I believe, in Harlem. And I don't really need to know more than that. I definitely want to keep this and read this. It just sounds wonderful. And I think that this I found out about from Russell at Ink and Paper blog. And I really trust him. I love Russell, so I'm going to keep that one. All the Light We Cannot See. I loved this book so much. I think I should reread this book at some point. Just a devastating story. Kind of, I would say, a classic when it comes to World War II historical fiction. Everyone should read this in my mind, so I'm going to keep this. The Butterfly and the Violin. No, I don't want to read this. I don't know what it's about. I have not wanted to read this in a while. I have not picked it up in a while, so I'm going to just pass that on to somebody else. The House at Riverton, I did enjoy, by Kate Morton. It was good, but I don't remember being completely hooked, 1000% hooked. So I'm going to pass this along. I think this is about an orphan or something along those lines. It was good. I love Kate Morton, but I don't need to read all of her books all over again, you know? Especially, I'd like to keep the ones that are my favorites of hers. Next is Anna and the Swallow Man. I heard that if you liked The Book Thief, you should read this, and it's tiny, and so I want to read it. And so I'm keeping that. When We Were Young and Brave. I'm curious about this one. So the back says, not to loved ones. I don't know what this is about. It sounds like this is about World War II story in China. I'm kind of curious. I'm going to put it on the maybe pile. The Distant Hours by Kate Morton. I really want to keep. I loved this book. It's definitely more of a gothic book than some of her others. It's quite dark and quite sad, and it really follows a woman's mother who during World War II was a child and ended up going to this kind of castle where she stayed with the Blythe sisters, and I found it heartbreaking and I really liked it. So I'm going to keep The Distant Hours. Songs of Love and War. This is the first in a series. It is World War one. It's turn of the century. I'm curious about it. I'm going to put it on the maybe pile though. Okay, next up is The History of Pompey the Little. It's the history of some sort of small dog. Very cute. My sister gave this to me, but I don't think that I'm drawn to reading this. So I am going to pass it along to someone else. Rebecca, don't hate me. Okay, next is Half-Blood Blues. Canadian literature about Black musicians during World War II. I am so curious about this. I need to keep it. Next is The Wartime Sisters, and this is about sisters who were driven apart during the war. I don't know much more about it than that. Kind of curious. I'm going to put it on the maybe pile. The History of Love sounds completely very, very sad. I want to keep it about a little girl or a young girl trying to like raise her mother's hopes and spirits. And I think it's going to be good. So I'm going to keep that. Oh, Hamnet and Judith. I loved this book. I continue to think about it and just think that it's like one of the best written books I've ever read. Keeping. And last but not least is The Paris Architect, about an architect in Paris who constructed a place in which he could hide a Jewish man to save his life. Sounds fascinating. I'm going to keep it. Okay. I've got a really big stack of books I'm going to be donating, which feels wonderful. I've got a fairly large stack of books I'm keeping. And now we need to go through the ones that I'm just not sure about and decide. Okay, Fatal Inheritance. I've never read Rachel Reese, and I think I would like to start here if I do. It sounds very tense, and so I think I'm gonna give it a try. The Lavender Garden by Lucinda Riley. Again, I haven't read Lucinda Riley yet and want to try her out. And this sounds great. It's World War II in France, which I think will be really interesting. So I'm going to keep this one. I just don't think I could get rid of Roots. I mean, it is such an important book. Such an important book of history too. So I'm going to keep this. One of these days I'm actually going to watch the series as well, the original series and then the remake as well. But I feel like the original series is so important to history. So I'm going to keep it. I might try to read this on audio instead of physical form, but we'll see what happens. Okay, next is Beneath a Scarlet Sky. I'm going to pass this along. I've had it on my shelves for so long and I have not ever gone ahead and picked it up or put it on a TBR, and I just don't know why, but here we are. I'm going to pass that on. Next is East of Eden, and you know what, guys? I don't really want to read it. Whoop! I don't really want to read it. I'm gonna pass it on. These are like, some of these things are shocking. I thought that I would have read that a million years ago. The Poisonwood Bible is next. I don't believe I've ever read Barbara Kingsolver, and I know that this is where I would want to start with her, so I'm going to keep it. I'm going to read a little bit more about the Wartime Sisters, see what I think. I think I'm going to pass this on. It is about sisters who don't get along for most of their life, and I just don't want to read about that subject matter, which to each their own, but I just don't feel like reading that subject matter. Songs of Love and War. I want to keep this just in case I like this and then want to read more by the author. First of all, I've never read anything by Santa Montefiore. And then there's a whole series, so if I like it, then I can dive into the series. So I'm going to keep this one. I'm also going to keep When We Were Young and Brave by Hazel Gaynor. I've read one other book by her and liked it. And this is just interesting about a girls' school in China during World War II, when Japan declares war against the US. I guess Japanese officials move into this, into the actual school itself and hold these kids in an internment camp. Sounds fascinating. So I'm going to keep this one. This has been wonderful, guys. I'm going to throw these books up there. I'll take a little shot for you guys to see like the before and after. Ah, feels wonderful. Let me know in the comments below. Do you think I did well? Like, I know that sometimes other people's favorite books, especially ones that I haven't read, I remember when I did the KonMari thing, everyone was like, please keep this one, and they would already be gone. But I think there's just something to be said about, like, there are certain books that you're truly drawn to, and then other books that you're just not. And there's no rhyme or reason necessarily, just subject matter or writers you've loved before. And anyway, so I hope that this video didn't make you all very mad, and I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll talk with you guys very soon. We'll do more of these if you like them. Okay, bye guys.